Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych Club, the Tom Numbers Show and News of Tom Numbers. And I've got the magnificent Jason SHURKA with me again from Unified. Jason, how are you, buddy?
I am doing well. I'm excited we're doing another show, and I can't wait to see where this one goes.
It will be very interesting, be fun. We were just talking off screen. I think maybe I'll ask the question because I think my audience might be curious of this. And then we'll go into the video you did with Tony Robbins recently about all kinds of different healing methods, which really caught my attention.
Sure.
But just off camera, and I think it's appropriate to ask, I asked Jason, how are you so accomplished? How are you, because you're 26 now. I said 25, and he's like, no, 26. I was like, okay, I'm doing him an injustice. But how are you so accomplished? Because you're so switched on in so many areas, and you're definitely mature, beyond your years. Because Scott McKay, you did a show with my buddy Scott just a week or two ago, and he's like, the guy's only 26, and it's like, so maybe you could just give us a little bit on that, because I'm sure my audience are like, well, he's so how is the SHURKA so accomplished?
Yeah, I'm very happy you asked that question because there are very clear answers. But I wanna preface with some crazy and honestly funny things that I've heard over the past year or two. There have been people that I've heard, they're like, oh, he's so young and he's done so much in such a short period of time. There's no way you can reach that level of success without being a part of the evil side. I've heard that one.
Okay.
I've heard people call me, a reptile, an alien. I don't know where they get these things from. So let's set the record straight.
I thought maybe off-world, but I believe there's good off-worlders, and I'm open to all kinds of stuff. And people say, oh, I'm a hybrid of a different round. I'm like, well, Jason's got this. He's definitely got something. I'm like, maybe he is, an off-worlder that's come to help humanity in a good way. So, yeah.
Or maybe I'm just a human being that can show the potential of what every other human being can do. And that's what people don't always comprehend. They have to make a story around how this could be possible and why can't it just be possible? Why can't we do incredible things no matter how young or old we are? You see, age to me, everybody always looks at me. They're like, you're 25, you're 26, what's going on? So I was in Oregon recently. I was on a tour on the West Coast, visiting a bunch
in Oregon, yeah.
In Oregon, visiting a bunch of our wellness centers on unified healing. And I was speaking to a group in Oregon specifically. I forgot the exact town, but in Oregon specifically. And the average age must have been 65, maybe even closer to 70. That was the average age of who I'm speaking to. And somebody asked me that question. She said, how at such a young age are you able to do what you do? And I said, because you, my friend, are defining age differently than I define age. Age means nothing without other things correlated to it, because there are some people, and this is what I said to them in that room. I said, the average age over here is about 65 to 70, but there are some of you in this room that are still 20. I don't care how many years you've had on earth. I care about what you've done with the years you have on earth. For example, what I mean by that is, let's say you're 20 years old. You're facing an obstacle that's coming your way. That obstacle, that hardship, that challenge has a lesson to teach you. And let's say you did not learn the lesson. What's going to happen? That obstacle, that test is going to come again. If you don't pass it, it's going to come again. And if you look at the majority of people, there's usually common and consistent themes in their life throughout their entire lives. And that is an indication of stagnation. That means that, yeah, you could be 70 years old, but you're still dealing with the test that came your way when you were 20. And it's repeating itself over and over and over again because you never asked, what's the lesson that this thing has to teach me? You just said, why is this happening to me? The second I realized that, and I didn't realize that very, very, very early on. I realized what I'm telling you right now probably when I was 19, 20 years old. Up until 19 years old, I didn't read a book. I've never read a book in my life up until 19 years old. Today, I've written 3, going on 4. How is that possible? And it's very simple. If you can start asking yourself with every challenge that comes your way, instead of why is this happening to me? How can I learn from this and what is the lesson? You can do more in 1 year in terms of growth and evolution than an average 70-year-old will do in 70 years. So it's not just about how many years you have on this planet. It's about what you do with those years. Experience is important. But if you have experience and you're not applying that experience to gain and access wisdom, then what's the experience worth? It's just blank bullets. So it's a matter of applying and learning the lessons that are coming your way instead of playing victim to them. And that's how I've done what I've done over the past 4 years, coupled with we all have electrical signatures. We all have energetic signatures. We all have soul signatures. We all have certain things that we come here for. I was fortunate enough to align with that, in a very short period of time through what I just shared. And I found a path, and that path was, why am I here? And by the way, I found that path through trauma. That trauma came as follows. And many people know this, I come from a family that's very successful. I never had to experience lack growing up. And most people say, oh, he's just the privileged kid. He's the privileged kid. He never has to deal with anything bad. And we forget that every single person in every walk of life, through every walk of life, experience the same themes of hardships in completely different ways, no matter what circumstances you choose to experience in your life. So what I'm getting at is, by me having so much growing up, I also looked around me and I saw nobody had anything. And the fact that nobody had anything and I had all this and I never had to worry about it, but my best friends needed to worry about where their next meal was coming from, traumatized me. It made me feel guilty. It made me say, why do I have this and they don't? And that trauma, that hardship, that challenge set me out on a mission. And that mission was, how do I change that? How do I change that and make this world a better place so everybody can experience abundance, so everybody can experience blessings, both financially in terms of health, wellness, their relationships, whatever it may be? How can I do that? And if you really look where it came from the basis of I felt bad that I had more than others around me. So it's this interesting thing that happens of how I believe your soul comes in and chooses certain circumstances. And it chooses certain circumstances regardless of fortunate or unfortunate. Take my father. My father grew up with nothing. He grew up in the slums of Israel. His dog was one that he found on the street. His underwear and his clothes were made by in some cases, cloth from cars in the junkyard that my grandma would go and get and sew to create clothes because they didn't have enough money to go and purchase that. So what did that do for my father? That circumstance of lack gave him the motivation to say, I need to change this. And today he changed it, and now he's using that to give back because he experienced that. So it's not a matter of the circumstances always. It's a matter of what you choose to do with the circumstances. And I wholeheartedly believe, and I think I'm a walking testimony to this, you can accelerate and excel more in 1 year than the average person does in 70 years if you simply start asking yourself the question, what does this situation, hardship, challenge, obstacle have to teach me, as opposed to, why is this happening to me and poor little old me? And I think that's what brought me here over the past couple of years.
Interesting. So when you say you didn't read a book, obviously you could read, though. It's not like you suddenly taught yourself to, you could read.
Oh, no,
just,
no.
I thought that was it.
I was
I'll
literally
get some people asking, like, he never, because you know what it's like with the comments.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's similar. Well, it's interesting you say 4 years ago, because I was always open to things, but the numbers, I've said it to my audience before, that they kind of descended upon me like a download, kind of in an instant within the first 2 or 3 weeks of lockdown in 2020. And that it was like a quantum leap for me. I mean, it's interesting, it's a leap year. My name in numbers 141 is quantum leap. We're in a leap year when it happened. I think the next year is going to be, to use Elon Musk's terminology, another order of magnitude and how big it will be next year. But it's interesting that the chronology you said 4 years ago is when you kind of got your mission. And that's interesting. So this accelerated period for a lot of people it's interesting, because there's 3 3.75 years. It was just 4 years ago. What did you notice when you had this mission, this revelation, this epiphany to do what you're doing now? You said about you can achieve more in 1 year than most could achieve in 70. What was your first kind of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from that point where you're like, well, because you talk about the year and how you achieved a lot in the first year. So what was the first 30, 60, and 90 days? What were the decisions and the actions? Because I get the impression that you're probably very good at implementing. I might be talking for you, but I get that impression. But what was it from when you realized, okay, first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days that set you on that first year of success? Can you just take us through a little bit about what that was?
Isolation.
Isolation.
It was complete isolation, complete lack of distraction. listen, I want everybody to understand, you know, growing up as a teenager, I was very normal like everybody else. I went out, I drank, I partied, I did everything. I did everything under the sun, and I had a great time doing it. But there came a point where there was a void. There was a void that I became aware of, and I knew that things had to change. So I kept trying to change it already, you know, 18, 19, leading up to 20. I tried changing it, and it was a process, and it took me time because, you know, I always remember growing up, Saturday night, it's the night to go out. If I'm not going out, I'm weird. I'm a loser. I can't not do that. I need to do it. So there needed to be this separation from all those distractions that were simply illusions. They weren't true. And basically what I did was, and it was extreme, and I got a lot of slack for it, was I had a group chat of like, you know, 8, 9, 10 really close guy friends. I left it. I said, hey guys, this is nothing personal, but I need to go on my own for a little bit. And they got very upset with me. They didn't understand what was going on. Today we're good friends and it's all good and everything's fine, but I needed to leave. I needed to completely isolate myself from anything that was not in the highest alignment with why I was here. I deleted all my social media, no Instagram, no Snapchat, no Facebook, no YouTube, no nothing. I was deleted, not deactivated, not put on pause, deleted. It was a complete fresh start. Now, coming up to my 21st birthday, what do most 21-year-olds do in, you know, the US? It's legal at drinking age. They go, they get drunk, they do their thing. What I did was the complete opposite. I took 30 days off of work. I was working in my family's real estate business at the time. I shut off my phone for 30 days. I told them already, I was working there for 2 years. I said, listen, guys, I need a break. I know this is going to be extreme, but I need your support here. I took 30 days off. I shut my phone off for 30 days and I went on a fast. I did about 2 weeks of water, 2 weeks of juice. I was basically fasting, as opposed to the exact opposite of what most people do when they turn 21. That's when I started getting downloads of write books. And then I had my own limiting beliefs of, what do you mean I can't write a book? I barely started reading just a year ago. It's not possible. And there's something beautiful when you allow those limiting beliefs to just leave, to dissolve. And you start finding that you are that source consciousness that you think is so much greater than yourself. You're connected to that. You can connect to that. You can channel from that. You can experience that. And you can transmit through that. We're channels for all those things. We're channels of energy. We're conduits of energy, not in a new age way or anything like that. That's literally what we are. You know, when you have an idea and you don't know where it came from somewhere. And when you have that spark of that idea, you were only able to possess and hold and activate that because your body was in a state to hold that frequency, to hold that signature, to hold that energy. So I isolated completely. I started reading. I started writing a journal. That was a big one for me right here. I started writing a journal, and I have tons of these. I have about 17 of these journals that through the consolidation of those journals, that's how I formulated my books. It was just these weird ideas that came to me in weird times. And it just kept going, and I accepted it. But I did have to disconnect for a period of time to do that.
Wow. It's interesting when you say isolation, because I didn't know what the numbers on isolation were. I don't think I've ever done that word. But it's 114, which is frequency. And you mentioned frequency and what you were doing as well. And then fasting, I've done before, but I forgot it. So fasting is 76, which is it's a magic wand. It's my name, Thomas. It's contact. You were making contact with your higher self or something else. You disconnected from your old contacts, and you were on this mission of growth and accelerated learning and abilities. But contact, fasting, and even scripturally, you know, people talk about fasting and how it seems to accelerate things. You know, which is, you know, you prefaced it with fasting, and then you had a trajectory and a result after it. So, but it's interesting. The word isolation is 114, which is frequency, which is sovereign. Yeah. Just
these past 2 days, on Sunday up until Wednesday morning, this morning, I was on a juice fast just because I just decided the day of. On Sunday, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to drink juice today. I made juice and I had a bunch, and I said, I'll just go for it. You know how much work I got done over the past 48 hours? Your brain worked a lot.
Okay. It was either one or the other. I thought it was a trick question. I was like,
no, because a lot
I thought you would be like, you blissed out and you just was receiving lots of, which is work as well, but you're just receiving lots of a conduit of
I think
energy, and then you're ready to put
because
in.
I've done the fasting
Okay.
often, usually the
Yeah.
first day or two is difficult. It doesn't really phase me that much anymore. So it was just pure vessel. I got so much work. Again, the amount of work that would usually take 3 weeks was done in 48 hours with no problem. Breaks in between, going to the beach, taking a swim. You just work differently when you tap into your power. And we have that ability. I never believe when somebody tells me it's impossible, it's my favorite line ever. When somebody tells me you can't do it, I'm like, thank you very much. You just gave me a new challenge. I'm going to show you that you can. And you know, that's part of my mission. And I think that's also, I feel that's part of my signature to bring to the world. We all have certain, you know, potentials and abilities. And I think the beauty of humanity is mixing that into soup and sharing our gifts. You know, you have gifts, I have gifts, we all have gifts. Tap into those gifts, develop them, and then share them. So then we can all have each other's gifts. That's how you become a superhuman.
What's one of in the last 4 years, what's one of the biggest accomplishments that you're proud of? And maybe in terms of, like you just said, if someone says, oh, that's impossible, and you're like, well, okay, it's a challenge. You said it's a mission, like it makes me think of Mission Impossible. But what's maybe one or two things that you're very, very proud of? Because initially it looked like almost impossible to be able to make it happen. And you probably, as you've expressed, you've probably done it in a super quick time frame, but efficiently and successfully. So maybe you could share a couple of those with us.
I would say 2 past and 1 current that's underway right now. Maybe even 3 past and 1 current. One is a movie that everybody knows called Sound of Freedom. But we'll start with the first one. So Unified TV. Unified TV is part of a nonprofit organization, the Unified World Organization. And I set out to say, listen, all these, you know, organizations, corporations out there, they're giving us dirt. We need clear, clean media. Anybody that I spoke to with the idea at first, they're like, listen, you're going to need like $10, $20 million to start. You don't know how big this is. It's going to be impossible. If you're going to do it, you're going to need to raise money. And I told them, I'm not raising money from big donors. I'm going to be doing something that's going to have equal shares across the board where everybody donates the same amount, a small nominal amount, where that donation will uphold this organization and bring us bigger than any media organization out there. Everybody told me it was impossible. There were people that said, you're crazy. You know, God bless you, but you're crazy. Today, Unified TV is reaching 10 million people per month. We did that without bringing in big donors. I don't have big investors. There are no investors. It's every single member that's paying a monthly donation or an annual donation. That's not a lot. It's a few bucks to the actual organization to help that happen. And today we have incredible things that we're doing on the platform. So that's one that I would say is a huge accomplishment, but it's not something that I accomplished. I was the facilitator. I see it as an accomplishment of we the people, because it's we the people that made it happen. You know, I wasn't counting on 1 or 2 billionaires. I was counting on everybody coming together and making it happen. That's what happened. So that was one. Number 2 is Unified Healing, which is probably even bigger than that in terms of how quick it grew and the level that it's at right now. In June, it was May, June of 2022, just a year and change ago. I interviewed Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. She's the inventor of the energy enhancement system technology. And basically, without going, you know, too much into detail, maybe we could do another show on this specifically. But I saw a demand for people to want to open centers with this technology around the world from thousands of people. And I knew that, you know, it's great that these people want to open, but they need eyeballs. They need awareness, or they're going to fail, especially when it comes to a technology that nobody knows about. So that's when I said, let me use the Unified TV project to create a new project, which was Unified Healing. It's unifiedhealing.com. It's a network of wellness centers around the world. And when I first started, I said, you know, it's probably going to have like 20, 30, 40 locations. My goal was to get to 500 locations by 2025. That was the goal. And I'm like, that's a big ask. That's like McDonald's level stuff.
That's US or worldwide?
Worldwide.
Okay.
Today, it's been a year and, you know, a month or two. We have 330 centers in over 40 countries. Now, again, I'm the facilitator, but I didn't open all those centers. I helped. I made it happen. but it was people standing up and saying, we want to do this. We, the people, stood up. That's what I stand for all the time. How do we, the people, stand up and make a change? How do we, the people, create a collective shift? Because that's the only way we're going to change the world. We have to do it all together, not count on one or two people with a lot of money to make it happen for us. So unified healing was a huge one. It still surprises me till today. 330 locations, tons of people experiencing benefits around the world. I just interviewed Tony Robbins in his home because he just brought this technology to his home as well. His office, his bedroom, his massage room, all these things are now starting to go mainstream because of something that happened a year ago. 330 locations in 1 year is unheard of. But again, that's because of we the people standing up. The third one I would say is Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom, unified as an organization. The Energy Enhancement System team came and helped fund this as well. But we're, big funders of the Sound of Freedom movie. We helped bring that to the public. We put a lot of money into that thing. And when I first went into it, I'll tell you a personal story. I called a lawyer when the producers came and they said, listen, this is how much we're talking about. You're talking about a lot of money. And the producer said, this is how much it is. This is how it's broken up into multiple different units of the movie. And, this is what stake you'll have in the movie and so on and so forth. And you're going to come on, be an executive producer. And I called an entertainment lawyer, a profound one, a renowned one. And I said, listen, here's the deal. This is how much it's going to cost. What are your thoughts? And I swear on my life, this is what he said. He said, listen, if you believe in this, it's a whole different story. But I'm going to tell you, with my experience doing this for 40 years, this is what the lawyer said. I'm giving you a 25% chance of just breaking even. Forget about, doing anything above that. 25% chance of breaking even. Now, I had to make this decision in a period of 24 or 48 hours, something like that. So I didn't even have time to really sleep on it and think. It was a decision that had to be made. I spoke to a few other people. They said, listen, if you're doing, just know that you're not going to see a return on this. And I came to terms and I said, listen, this is a movement that's too important to think about any form of an investment in any way. We need to do this for the right reasons. I believe it's going to be very successful, but I saw that money go out, and let's just do this for the right reasons, as a donation to the world, as a donation to help people, as a donation in honor of the children, of what's going on, of what people are starting to understand now through the Sound of Freedom movie. Everybody told me it was impossible to break even on that thing. The movie did $180 million in the US in a month and a half on a $14 million budget. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's coming over. I think it's just, I haven't checked it, but someone said in a chat that's coming, it's in the UK at the end of the month. Is that true?
25 to 30 other countries.
Are you coming over for any of the premieres here?
No, I don't have time. I'm doing a lot of travels right now, but again,
you need to figure out, Jason, next task, you need to be able to figure out how to fractal yourself so you can be Where's Waldo?
There's only one way that I know of. There's only one way that I know of that I'm completely against, and it's called cloning. I will never do something like that.
No, don't do cloning. I mean like Marty McFly, Back to the, if you can go time travel, you could say, right, I need to be here. I need to come over to the UK. I'm going to go to the Sound of Freedom. Tom will come and meet me, but I also need to do something in Australia. So you have to do an Emmett Brown. You have to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I would say those three things are past things that everybody said impossible. You're out of your mind, and they worked, and they were huge successes, and they still are. And I would say the current one, which I'm in the process of, soon I'll be able to come on your show and say this is a past success. But right now it's underway. This was actually inspired by Tony himself, Tony Robbins. After interviewing him and just being around his energy, the man is powerful. The man's a powerhouse in what he does. And he's really, really good at what he does. And just by sitting around him, and instead of having, and this is a lesson, instead of being jealous or envious of somebody that's doing something incredible in the world, imagine being able to look at somebody and admiring them and saying, wow, you just showed me what I'm capable of. That was my experience with him. I'm looking at a man that's a giant among humanity, literally and figuratively. The man's 6'7", head's 2 times the size of mine. He's massive, but he has a very, very big influence in the world, and he's helping a lot of people. And I looked and I said, it was the same deal with the book that I wrote that I didn't think I was capable of doing. I said, no, I could do this. I've always had a dream of, if Kevin Hart can fill up stadiums around the world to tell jokes, I'm going to fill up stadiums around the world to help change people's lives and transform their lives. So I went ahead with that full force, all in. I rented out a hotel in Orlando, Florida for 2024, March of 2024. It's probably going to be my biggest and most powerful event yet. It's called The Transformation. It's a 3-day in-person seminar. And again, there are people that are saying it's impossible. You can't do it. And I'm going to show them that, of course, you can. And this is the power of the human. This is the power of what you can do when you believe in yourself and you believe in what's right in this world. So that, I would say, is the next thing that's going to be a past thing soon. That's an upcoming event. Anybody that wants to learn about that can just go to my website, jasonshurka.com. But that's going to be an exciting one. And that's probably—
What sort of size are you talking about, Jason? Like a Tony Robbins sort of size event? A couple
No,
of thousand?
to start, I probably want to, the first round of capacity, I want to keep it not too big because of how powerful it's going to be and potent. Probably 600 people. I could go up to a few thousand, but I want to keep it smaller and grow from there. But we'll see how it goes. I'm open to everything. Right now, I'm not focused on the amount of people. I'm focused on the amount of value I can bring to those people. And I want to make sure that it's done, focused, potent, powerful. That's what the transformation is all about. And it's going to be one of many events moving forward that are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as I perfect the logistical side. Because I know what I'm going to bring to the table, but you're talking about food, catering, hotels, rooms, schedules, a full team. It's a big deal, you know. So
it is.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
You'll pull it off, though. You'll pull it off. You'll do.
I'm all in. I'm all in.
It'll be fine.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
So talking of Tony, so I was into Tony Robbins a lot, particularly probably 20 plus years ago, and he helped me a lot in many ways. I've been to a number of his seminars, and I haven't really studied his stuff as you know in probably the last decade or so. But I hear what you're saying about him, and you know he's done a lot of great work, and he is. I've met him briefly, shook his hand, the big banana hands and the big head. I've got a pretty big head, but he's bigger than mine. But when did Tony come into your life? Did he come around that sort of time, about 4 years ago, when you kind of got your mission? Was he kind of in and around you then, or did he come after?
You know, the man is very, very down to earth. That's why I love him so much. He actually contacted me. I didn't reach out. He contacted me and he's like, listen, I heard you're the guy for this EES technology. I like it. I want it. Let's talk. He left me a voicemail, called me on a block number, initially left me a voicemail and gave me a number to call back. And I said, interesting. He called me himself. He didn't send a secretary. The guy has a big team, you know, he has a big team. He could have sent anybody to go and make a connection. He called himself. He left his own voicemail and he said, I want to talk. Let's make this happen. And I respected that. I liked that a lot. It showed the humility in the equation already. I gave him a call back. We spoke. Within a week or two, I was already at his home doing the interview. He's like, listen, I want to help raise awareness for this. I see what it's doing. I want people to know about this. Let's make it happen. I definitely want units for my home. I want to raise awareness for this. So he purchased 2 big units for his home, 24 unit systems, the biggest they come basically before going bigger on like a custom level. And I went to his home. I interviewed him. Super cool guy. Him and his wife. Sage is amazing.
Sage.
Amazing people. And it's great, you know, and it's just awesome. So he's actually a new person in my life. I met him just a few months ago. And ever since, you know, it's like before Sound of Freedom, I knew that he knew, you know, Tim Ballard and all those people. And I called him and I said, hey, what do you know about these people? This is the deal. He was one of the people that I called. And he actually said the same thing. He said, don't expect to see a return, but they're great people and you should support them. And I said, no problem. so, you know, I call him for advice on how to do certain, what he knows and what he thinks. And he's great, you know, super down to earth guy, very powerful.
Good. That's good to hear. Well, I always liked the stuff I would learn from back in the day. And tell us about the products, because I saw that, the healing stuff I saw on the show. And I'll put this out and I'll leave it wherever it goes. But if you want to bring him and yourself on here, you're welcome to use my platform on YouTube, because getting the message out. It'd be fun to break bread with both of you. So I'll leave it in your court. But tell us about the show, because I saw it probably a couple of weeks ago, and then that's when I messaged you. We've been trying to get another show together. And I was like, hey, I saw it. You're like, well, let's do it. So there was some. I'll let you describe it all, but you talked about a few things, but then there were these kind of TV screens, for want of a better phrase. And I'm just going to do a basic standard just description, get people's attention, you can describe it and go into detail. But they're healing devices. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting modality. So tell us about it. Tell us what you and Tony were talking about and describing. You mentioned that he's got it now in his home and his, you know, all over his house, but tell us more about it. Yeah.
Yes. So first of all, just to give people a visual, can I share my screen real quick? There
You
we
should
go.
be able to. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see this?
We can see it. Yes.
There
Yeah.
we go. Okay. So this is what we're talking about. This is a smaller version of the technology. And just to be
Like the
super, this is a double cube. This is a cube on a cube. I actually have one right behind my camera over here in my office. So I have this one's in a bedroom. This one's in my office. I have them everywhere I go. Now, let me give a background to understanding what you're looking at, because just full transparency, when I first saw this thing, I'm like, what is this nonsense? There's no way that, you know, some lights with what comes off as a computer screen with some computer components can do anything. And then I understood that I just had a lack of awareness that I had to fill. I had to understand something. I had to understand how scalar energy works. I had to understand how scalar technology works. I had to understand what torsion and toroidal fields were. I had to understand what polychromatic and biophotonic light was, and how light interacts with the body and your DNA, and how you can actually use light to help the body heal itself, and put me throughout this incredible journey over the past year. So in short, what you're looking at when I showed you those screens is a two-field mechanism, if you want to call it. There's one field creating a scalar field that creates a torsion field, a balanced energetic field that you synchronize with. So your body will synchronize with coherency as opposed to distortion. Just like if one woman has, you know, she gets her period, menstrual cycle.
Yeah, they all sync up.
They all sync up. It's not because it's contagious. It's because women are synchronizing, the majority of the time, synchronizing to the environment around them. So if you take that principle, the environment that you're in is the environment that, for the most part, but not always, you will synchronize with. That means that if you put yourself in a sick, distorted environment, you will experience distortion in the body. If you put yourself in a coherent, balanced environment, you will experience coherency and balance in the body. So by creating that scalar field and creating those torsion fields that are balanced and stable, you're now putting your body back into contact with the base field of creation. It's like the electromagnetic field of God, if you want to call it, because it has no beginning and no end. It has no birth and no death. It's just infinite and eternal in its way. So that's one field. The other field, which is the screens that you're looking at, is the biophotonic field. Using light.
Sorry, Chris. So you've got the screens. So they're not scalar themselves. Scalar's another piece to the puzzle that you need to incorporate.
Yeah, no. So scalar, inside of these boxes, there are what we call engine field generators, 4 of them. Behind each screen, there's an engine field generator.
Which is scalar.
So the way that it works is an engine field generator is an engine that generates electromagnetic fields. To create a torsion field and to access that scalar field, if you want to call it that, the science behind it, to make it very simple, is you need identical electromagnetic fields aligned precisely, and their merging point over here will create a torsion field. So in the case of the cube that you're looking at, you have 4 identical electromagnetic fields that are being generated by the engine field generators, aligned precisely in a way where their merging point creates a 4-point stable torsion field. That's what you're talking about with the scalar field. That's the scalar side of the technology.
Okay.
You're accessing a higher field.
So it's all as you see it. It's not that you need extra, because I've got a different piece of kit with scalar, but it looks very different from that. So when you mentioned it, I was like, do you have it there? You know, but you've got it.
Yeah, so the way that this technology works, that's how it does it on the scalar side. But on the biophotonic side, that just means light that interacts with your body. It's using light in specific ways to interact with your body, understanding that the prime function of DNA is the storage of light. When you give it coherent light, it will then transmit that light to experience and express coherency in the body. So it's balancing both the 5D, if you want to call it, the spiritual, the non-tangible, intangible, non-physical side through the scalar fields. And then it's balancing the physical matrix 3D side on the body using biophotonic light. One works with light and frequencies within the spectrum of the speed of light, And one works with light and frequencies outside of the spectrum of the speed of light, meaning faster than the speed of light. That's what scalar is. So when you're seeing people experience incredible benefits across the board, you said something, and I want to correct you. You said it's a healing technology. No, you are the healing technology. That's what your body is meant to do. Your body will always do one thing, and that is strive to heal itself. The question is, does it have the proper environment and resources to do that? This technology does not heal you. This technology gives you the proper environment and resources for your body to do what it does best, which is heal itself. And that's the paradigm shift that we're experiencing right now.
Okay,
that's what unified healing is all about.
It gives you the conditions to optimize your natural healing. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Exactly. Doing wonders. That's why there are hundreds of centers all around the world. By the way, one of the things that I'm doing at that event in March, the transformation, I'm bringing the technology to the event. It's going to be on stage the whole time, 3 days. So everybody's going to experience a transmission while experiencing what's being taught and shared and transmitted throughout this event. I'm also doing a raffle to give away a free cube, which is going to be awesome. I'm excited. Do
you have centers here in the UK? Yes. London or the South Coast?
I think we have about 10 of them. You should go check one out. Just give me a call and I'll hook you up.
Cool. I'll do it, man. Yeah, I'm all up for that because it's been a great 3.5 years, but definitely some healing and recuperation is
how far are you from Battersea? Battersea something.
Well, Battersea is a beautiful place on the south of the River Thames. So I'm probably a couple hours away. So I used to live central.
We have a beautiful center there.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm up in London actually next week. Okay, we'll talk. Yeah.
There's centers all over. If anybody wants to check it out, you go to unifiedhealing.com. It's very simple. It's a very simple and easy way to see where they are around you. I'll actually walk you through it so everybody could see that as well. You can click find a center, and then it will just show you all around the world. So let's say we go to, UK area. Here we go.
Let's zoom in. So you've got one.
So the purple pins are the ones that are open.
Okay.
And the gray pins are the ones that are opening soon.
Where's the gray ones in the UK? I didn't see any.
There's one here in Canterbury. There's one here.
There's one there, Southampton.
Yep.
That's not far from me. Okay. The Battersea sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. The Battersea one is good. And then it really is all over Europe. It's all over the US, like everywhere. And now we're going into South America. We did a program for South America, Africa, and a few other less fortunate countries around the world to make it more affordable. So we can, bring this all over. We have them in Australia, and we have a free center in India that we did a donation to.
So what's that? You may have mentioned it, but let's refresh on it. So what's the name of that technology, and what's the name of the cube, quote unquote? What is it called?
Yeah, so the name of the technology is the Energy Enhancement System.
Their
website is eesystem.com if you want to learn more about that directly. They have a bunch of research on their page as well, about 2,000 pages of research. And the cube is called an Energy Enhancement System cube. So we did, you know what? Oh no, it might not sound well. There's a video that I want to show you that's beautiful. We've been doing donations we just did a donation to a 13-month-old baby boy. His grandmother was at one of my events in Roseville, California, and she was crying and explaining the situation. So on the spot, we donated and surprised her with a cube. And of course, it was all contingent upon the parents' approval. The parents were all open to it. They said, let's do it. And I'll actually read you a text. So his name is Kurt. Kurt Fletcher. He's 13 months old. And he has a rare genetic disorder. And a lot of people were saying, you really think a cube can do anything? And I said, listen, there's only one way to find out. Let's get it to him. We'll do the donation to him and let's see what happens, because they had, some issues with money and finances and things like that. So I got a text saying this was on August 15th from Patsy, his grandmother, with pictures of him. This is him, by the way. He's super cute. That's Kurt. And what the text says is, since July 20th, his motor skills have improved daily and very fast. What took all summer long to get him to accomplish, he has picked up in the last 2 weeks. He is recognizing puzzle pieces and putting them in their places, but hasn't quite figured out how to place them in place yet. almost ready to walk and becoming confident about everything that he's doing. And then today, she said, Kurt signed his first word. His hearing at this time is normal. Both Isaac and Mom Bethany are hearing impaired and wear hearing aids. Isaac hears everything but the lower levels, and it's all about their hearing and how it got better on all fronts, not just with Kurt, but with the family as well. So it shows you the power of the human body and what it can do when you give it the proper resources and the environment to do it.
Wow. So energy enhancement system, and then the energy enhancement system cube, or is energy enhancement cube?
We call it the EE cube.
EE cube.
Yeah.
Okay. And who is the inventor, the creator of that?
The inventor is Dr. Sandra Rose Michael.
It is Sandra Rose Michael. Okay.
Very, very wise woman, very spiritual woman, just incredible in terms of what she does. I can't speak her in a few words without doing her justice. You need to speak about her for a much longer time than that. She's not just a genius in what she does. She's a genius in both the physical realm and the spiritual. And that's the beauty of what she brings to the table. You know, most scientists, doctors, they're good at what they do, completely disconnected from the bigger picture. And most spiritual people have no idea how to do those things. She's bridged the gap between the two, and that's how she created it. This technology has been around since 1996. It's not new. It's just the awareness of the technology is new, because I mean, that's where I was sent to go and interview her. That's where TLS, the organization that I work with, was involved. They're behind the extreme flourishing of this technology around the world.
Going back to your first project when you got 10 million users on unified TV, what were the mechanics of making that happen? Because when people get they get inspiration, they set a goal, and like, okay, I'm going to, I have this goal to reach. Quite often there's a lot of trial and error. It strikes me that you really, in your 4-year journey, haven't really had too many errors. I mean, I might be speaking out of turn for you. Well, from the surface, it seems like it's like, well, you got so much, backlog of success. It's like there doesn't seem to be much room for it. But maybe because you're able to do so much work, you're able to get to failure very quickly and then move to the next step.
No. So first of all, I failed many times. There's many errors.
Okay.
And we learn from them. So it's not a matter of not making mistakes. Mistakes are great. You learn from them. The question is, are you learning from the mistakes, and how much are those mistakes costing? Because certain mistakes can be detrimental to the entire organization.
Yeah.
Anybody that works with me, you could ask them and they'll all tell you, I'm in a way very crazy on little tiny things, tiny little things, because they matter. Everything matters. The amount of exclamation points you put at the end of a sentence matters in the title of a video. The way that the thumbnail of the video looks matters for the person that's going to look at it and be interested. The type of audience you're going after, you have to understand their psychology inside out. It's not just a matter of naming something randomly. There is nothing random that goes on in our organization. Everything is calculated. We think about everything before it happens. Sometimes we miss things, and then we figure it out. And we learn, we move on, and we figure out how to make those things better. But everything to the T, all the way to the amount of dots after a word, are important, because numerology is very important. And the amount of dots, the amount of question marks, the amount of exclamation points will have a subliminal effect on the way that you interact and read that message without you even understanding it.
This is interesting. This is really give us the dots, the question marks, and the exclamation marks. What's your understanding? What's the optimum of that? Because I do those things on my thumbnail. So it's like, this is really pinpoint. This is interesting to me.
Well, I would say dates are a big one. Dates are huge in terms of releasing certain things. When I sign certain contracts, when I'll bring certain people on, all those things are important, because it may not seem important from the physical standpoint, but the physical is not where it starts. The spiritual, the energetic is where it starts. If your numbers are in line, if your energy is in line, because energy is numbers, numbers is energy, you win. You can't fail. So you have to understand everything from that basis. So for example, certain dates, take when everything really started with TLS. When did they first put me on the map? It was on August 26th. August 26th is not a random number. 8 stands for infinite. 26 is the number of God in the Hebrew languge.
Well, the word God in simple gematria is 26.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
And when you say numbers are energy, energy is 74. And
Yes.
gematria, which is the simple codex, the alphanumeric codex that I use, is 74. So that's, you know, it's
That's
bang on.
interesting. So we're very alike. The only difference I would say is I do everything, also because I understand the language, because I grew up with it. I do everything according to like biblical Hebrew. That's the only, that's how I function through dates, numbers, and how I do things. So for example, at the end of certain YouTube videos, I have something called Pay It Forward. Pay It Forward is a campaign that I'm running on my YouTube channel where I pick one subscriber. All you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. I pick one subscriber at the end of certain videos. We do multiple videos a month. And that subscriber wins $555. Why 555? Why not 500? Why 555? Because 5, especially 555 repeating. First of all, if you go to Hebrew and more biblical, it's also Aramaic, things like that. It has to do with luck. They say chamsa, chamsa, chamsa. It's like a 5. Number 1 is the letter of God. It's Hey. It's the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's the breathing one. It's the soul. It's what brings in positive change. So 555 was a calculated number. I could have done 333. I could have done, for everything has its own meaning. I wanted 555 because I wanted positive transformation to occur with that money when those people receive that. So Pay It Forward is all about, you won $555, use it to transform something positively and use it to make this world a better place. Certain dates that I put things out on. Forget just, Unified TV. It's everything that I do. I just signed a big contract. I signed it on 8/18. Because 8 represents infinity and 18 represents life. The transformation, that event that I was telling you about, I made sure to sign that contract on 8/18 because I understand that that's the energy that's going into that event, infinite life. That's what we want to bring forth. So those are just little, snippets of things and how things work.
Well, details do matter. They do matter.
They matter more than most people understand. Colors, details, thumbnails,
Oh, yeah.
type, everything.
Yeah. What do you do in terms of the dots? So how many dots on a thumbnail or on a description of a YouTube video? How many do you think is the optimum?
It depends what I'm going for. So if I'm going for something that I want to tap into the energy of like positive change and divine energy, we'll use 5, let's say. I'll include 5 somewhere there. Usually you'll see 3. Because number 1, 3 represents my name in Hebrew. That's, if you break down my name in Hebrew, it comes down to the letter 3. 3 is also, in other religions like the Holy Trinity. 3 is a very, very powerful number. So I like 3 because of what it represents with abundance, with also transformation, but bringing energy from the higher realms down to the base of physicality. So the most often thing you'll see is 3. You'll see that over and over again.
That's what I tend to do, but I like what you said about the 5. Question marks and exclamation marks. What would you say on those?
Again, depending on what I'm going for. So sometimes, even without numbers, sometimes I'll bold something because that's the word I want you to look at.
Yeah.
There's a whole title, but I'll bold it. If you look at all my emails, they're bolded words. That way, if you didn't see anything, subconsciously, those words are now with you. Those words can be love, abundance, miracles, all those things. Right now I'm working on something that I'm going to be implementing on every Unified TV movie production video moving forward. And it's going to be a transmission of mantras, of loving mantras, of uniting mantras, but a transmission that you can't hear. So while you're watching this movie, there's going to be a transmission coming to you. You can't hear it. You can't see it. You don't even know that it's there. But what's embedded in there are mantras of I'm capable, I'm limitless, I love, I am love, I'm with love, I love you. All those things being embedded now into the background of these movies. So now and I'm letting people know because I'm going to let them know when I implement this. This is an exciting thing. This is something that everybody should know about. But it's using numerology, mantras, energy in a certain way where it's not even something you can see or hear, but it's happening. And that's one of the other ways that I would use it. So again, it's all dependent on what we're trying to do, what the purpose of the video is. For example, in the initial interview with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael that went viral all around the world and made EE system and unified healing what it is today in such a short period of time. the word that was kept repeating over and over and over again was miracle, over and over and over.
Interesting. Miracle 61 in numbers. What software do you use then to implement the background non-verbal, well, non-audio, non-noticeable message? What do you use?
So I'm not a programmer or editor in that way by any means. One of my really, really good friends is the one that's putting it together. I'm just giving him the transmissions. So there's going to be a male voice and a female voice. The female voice, I know who I want to use. The male voice, he wants me to do it and to recite the mantras, because it's important for who does it also. When you do it, like I would do something like that after a week of fasting when I'm in like the highest place I've ever been. So the energy that you're putting in is something that you can capture almost like a video on a camera. That's beautiful. Only a transmission of energy to people. So yeah, I have a really good friend of mine that's putting that together.
That's interesting. Did you come up with that idea yourself, or did you?
It was his idea.
Okay.
It was his idea.
I've heard about things like that before on transmission, but in terms of a good message, that's very interesting. That's powerful. You talked about healing, and you talked about a 3. So in the simple gematria, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, just the order of the alphabet, assigning, you know, each letter's position, the corresponding number. So 3 is 56. Healing is 56, and light is also 56. And you talked about healing, well, you talked about light and DNA. DNA is 19, but if you add light plus DNA, that's 75. 75 is magic wand. We did 76 earlier, which is a magic wand, but 75 is eternal, and we talked about that. We talked about funding as well. Funding is 75, but DNA plus light, or DNA healing, which is what you're doing, comes to 75. And 75 is eternal. So it's fascinating how a lot of the things that come up, a lot of the correlation. Yeah.
A lot of connections.
Yeah, it is, man. It's very interesting. And going back to the Unified TV, and you got to the 10 million subscribers. How?
Well, no, just to correct you, it's not 10 million subscribers. It's a reach of 10 million. Much of what we do, Unified TV is broken up into 2 portions. So there are things that we do that are free for everybody, and there are things for members only to help continue supporting us and donating. So
you're getting 10 million people see that each month.
Yeah, our organization reaches 10 million people per month.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's still big numbers. That's still
it's huge. You know, it's huge, but it's not anywhere near where it should be.
Okay. What was the trial and error process, if there was any trial and error through that? Because you started, 4 years ago, you had your day in the sun. It's like, okay, I need to do this. You isolated, which is frequency. Isolating is 114 frequency. You got something going. You started creating, in a major way. What was your trial and error process with that? Because it's like, those are big numbers,
It's a good question. There were trial and error on many different fronts. So there was trial and error on how to best use my energy. There was trial and error on how to best market certain things. There was trial and error on how to best make a website with the best conversion rates possible, what catches people the most, that speaks to them and resonates with them the most. There was trial and error on what accounting platforms to use, all the way to what scheduling platforms to use. There was trial and error on so many different things. On the biggest one is management. That's something that it's not easy to run an organization with a lot of people that are helping run it, and a lot of people in different positions that are running it. And I always looked at, like, forget about their intentions, but let's talk about the big boys for a second. You're talking about organizations, corporations in that case, with, 1 million, 2 million employees. How do you do something like that? It was unfathomable to me a year and a half ago. Today, it's fathomable, because I understand that as a matter of, I thought it's like, you're going to have so many more people, you're going to have to work that much harder. No, you're actually I'm able to do things that I couldn't do a year ago now, because there are people supporting the organization, because there are people in certain positions and spots running everything. So the biggest trial and error that's still ongoing and will forever be ongoing is proper management. How do we manage something to make it efficient, effective, cost effective, make it make sense? Because we have a big responsibility. I have the responsibility of, I have to use all of the funds that people are donating to this organization and to this operation in a way that's not only transparent, but effective. And that's where the big decisions are scary sometimes. That's where Sound of Freedom was scary. Because yes, we need to give back and do this, but I also want to make sure that the mission at hand doesn't fail because of something big that we take a chance on. So there are all these steps that have to be, you know, reconciled and thought of before they're taken, and it's a lot of trial and error. But I would say the biggest one has to do with management, operation, and how to streamline certain things, streamlining operations to be able to grow and make things bigger.
You said that you started to read books when you know, 4 years ago, because you hadn't read a book before then.
Yeah.
Were there a certain selection of books that you started to read that helped you get from point A to point B quicker? I mean, there's still errors along the way, but even just, you know, we all do our own thing and we all progress. It's like, if you get an error, or if you get something that kind of puts a spoke in the wheels, it's easy. It's not the best thing, but it's easy to just get sidetracked, or you try something else because you're not sure. You know, it's like, okay, if you get blocked here, you try this. Maybe if you get blocked there, that's actually the correct route you should go. But you don't know that until you do the trial and error, or you have someone that's been there before and can mentor you or tell you, or you get it from a book. But everything is down to a time-energy coefficient, isn't it? You know, in this 3D realm, it's like, okay, well, which decision did you make? Unless you're, you know, running, you know, at full optimization, but, you know, you need maybe 100 of you to know that that's the best route. So I'm curious on how you were able to meander and get past all of that. I mean, is it just down to the fact that you're able to read quickly, you had to take all these actions quickly?
Actually, I wasn't reading quickly, but what I was reading, I was studying.
Okay.
Every book you see that I read when I started reading, you'll see a lot of highlights, a lot of notes. It was full absorption of everything in those books. And all the books were generally either medical oriented or spiritually oriented, because that was just what I was interested in. Now, what I did was, it took me about 50 books. I read 50 books the first year I started reading. I was like, I needed to make up for the 19 years of my life that I never opened a book. So I just read during those periods of isolation. I was reading and studying and learning and writing and really comprehending everything that was coming in. But my biggest problem was, I'm like, why did it take 50 books to learn this? Why can't there be one book or two books to teach all of this in a consolidated way? So that's what inspired me to write my books. I took all the best portions of all the books that I read, and I created them. I filtered them through my own awareness, through my own lens. And I said, what's the best way to share this in a way that's easy to understand, that's broken down, that isn't complex, that's simplified in one simple, easy way? And that's when I started writing my books. I have right now 3 books with 2 more coming out. Forming the Formless was my first book. The Language of Energy was my second book. And Rays of Knowledge was my third book. And those 3 books, specifically the first 2, and this is what they look like. It's The Language of Energy and Forming the Formless. Rays of Knowledge is more like a story with a lot of unique information. But Forming the Formless and The Language of Energy, it was those 2 books that were a consolidation of everything that I learned intensely throughout a period of 2 years. Now, 2 years may not sound like a lot, but believe me, it is when you're going all in.
Yeah. So it was pure, like Tony will say, it was pure immersion in what you were doing. Yeah. You were fully immersed. And also that resonates with me when you say, well, it was actually something you were interested in, because probably a lot of people listening to this can resonate with it. And I think from what you just said as well. But the things I do, if I have a natural curiosity about it, then I can do it forever, you know, until I'm saturated in it. But if it's something I have some kind of block or resistance to, then it becomes a bit clunky, a bit of a work, you know, and it's like it's not joyful. Whereas when it's something that is the thing I should do or need to do at that particular time or want to do, that's when it flows. And that's, you know, like the numbers, it was like 3 PhD courses within 3 weeks that, you know, just kind of descended upon me. But my actual curiosity was just, wow, this is magic. I've never come across this before. So it was effortless, you know. So I think what you said there is kind of in the realms of that, because, you know, it's a lot of work. You might as well do something that flows and you enjoy and you get something out of, and it's a joy, as opposed to something that's clunky, rigid, lethargic, because you're just not going to get there otherwise,
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Well, buddy, it's really been fascinating to drill into all that.
I always enjoy our talks. We got to do this more. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, because there's a lot more questions I'd like to ask, and I'm definitely curious about the cubes, and I'd love to get up to Battersea and experience that. And I'll be up there next week, so we'll talk, and maybe we can go and do that, while I'm up there. But
I will help you out however I can. All I ask is let's make everybody around the world aware of this. I always say, if